Hi guys, it's Jordan from P&P Campers. I'm just going to be doing this handover video on this Burstner Ixeo. It's a Time IT 590 and it's actually the Sovereign edition as well. So I think basically what that means is that you get all of this really nice leather upholstery inside and a few bits and pieces extra on the conversion, but I'll get through to that when we get inside later on. So we're based on the Fiat Ducato, and I'll just basically start running you through all of the sort of consumable bits and pieces under the bonnet. So on the left hand side we've got your washer fluid, power steering fluid and engine coolant. We've then got your brake fluid attached to the servo behind it, engine oil filling point and engine oil dipstick just down here. The air filter sits inside this box just down here. And because the engine batteries sit inside the cab, so if I just point out to you where that is, the engine battery sits underneath a little cover just down here underneath the carpet, that you can see. And so if you ever needed to jump start the vehicle, to save you having to get inside and lift up that big cover and get to the battery under the floor, you have got a positive terminal just here. So that's this little prong of metal just here, and an earthing point just up here. So it does say just there, only for jump start, and so that's how you know that that's where you jump start from. Your original chassis plate is this one just here. There will be another one on the vehicle somewhere to give you the sort of uprated weight, because they would have been changed when it was converted by Burstner. I'll probably find that at some point when we're walking around, but that's about it for under the bonnet really. There's nothing, you know, it's all fairly easy to get to. As you can see, nice and tidy under here. We haven't given it its final wash off just yet, but there you go. All right, so inside the passenger door we've got the bonnet release handle, which is just here inside. I'll just point out as well that underneath this passenger seat you've got lots of electrical bits and pieces, so that's all of your power supply unit. It's underneath this passenger seat, so try your best not to mess about with any of that under there too much, because it's all a bit, you know, they put them in there so that they're not really made to be touched, if you like, but there you go. All right, so you've then got, just behind the passenger door, you've got your diesel filling point behind this cover, all colour matched to match the front cab. Moving towards the back, the first locker we get to is a really, really important one. So this is our freshwater tank, electric hookup and boiler drain. So this is a super important cupboard. Now you've got the option when you're plugging the hookup cable in, just quickly for now I've just chucked it in here on the outside, but you have got the option of lifting up this little cover here and having it come up through there. If you have the cable coming up through there, it means that you can have the locker completely locked up, so that you can, you know, just basically lock the cupboard up completely and continue using the hookup without any worries of anyone being able to get to it. You can still close the cupboard if you want to. If you want to just have it outside like this, you can still close the cupboard up, because it gives you this little gap just here to do that. But I just thought I'd show you those two options there. The boiler drain off point is this blue thing just here. So basically any time that the little blue button at the bottom is pressed in, like it is now, it means that the water inside the boiler will stay inside. If I twisted this top part here, the blue button at the bottom would push out and all of the water from inside of it would drain onto the floor. So if the temperature gets really low, that should automatically drop out the water for you, and then the next time you go to fill it up, which I'll show you how to do inside, but you will have to come in here and push that little button back in. So your freshwater filling point is this one up here. So if we undo that, you can see there access to the freshwater filling point. Your freshwater drain is this little valve just here, so you twist this anti-clockwise and it will drain all the water out from underneath. You've then got an access point for the fresh tank, so it's got a little scrubbing thing there telling you that that's basically how you can get access to it if you wanted to clean the tank out. So having this access to the fresh tank is something that you very, very rarely see on any motorhome. Normally you have to kind of lift up some hatches or drop the tank or something like that. So this is really, really handy. You've also got in here the external water fitting. So I'll show you where that is in just a minute, but that's the fitting for that. And you've got another drain at the back, which is basically just like a pipe drain. So if you were going to, if I just get this out of the way, if you wanted to winterize the vehicle, you would first twist this blue one just here and wait for the bit to pop out at the bottom so that the boiler is draining out. And you'd also lift that one up there so it's facing up vertical, and that would basically just drain out the system completely. So that is that locker. Next door, we've got the LPG locker. Just chuck that down there. So the LPG locker, you've got a refillable gas flow system in here. The filling point for that is just down here. So that is any sort of decent petrol station. I find that a lot of the time it's the motorway petrol stations that have this LPG in here. Really easy to get a hold of abroad, but you will need to have some extra fittings in order to use it if you're in a different country. But that is your filling point just there for the gas flow. You've then got two bottles, obviously one big and one small. That's quite normal. You've got a little gauge on the top of each bottle to tell you roughly how much is in it. To turn these bottles on is exactly the same way as the normal sort of propane bottles you might come to find. So anti-clockwise round to the left will turn the bottle on, and clockwise all the way around to the right will turn the bottle off. You should always turn the bottles off before you start driving, and any time that you've got a green symbol in there, it means that there's gas going through to the regulator. But there you go. I'm going to leave the gas on for a minute just so I can show you a few bits working inside. So this is the external hot and cold water point, as I said. That's your fitting for it just down there. So that literally just plugs into the top valve just there, and that'll then allow you to use that hot and cold water from the outside. Just have a look underneath, make sure I'm not missing anything obvious, which I am. Lucky I checked. Okay, so down here we've also got your wastewater drain off point, which is basically just a twist from this hole just here, this one here. So you will have some sort of a little spanner, which I think is just inside this cupboard. Yep. So you've got this little spanner, if you want to call it a spanner, and basically, I'll just show you properly, that goes onto here, and then you twist it whichever way it will go. Let's say that. There you go. So around to the left, and that will then allow any water inside the waste tank to drain out. There you go. So I'll leave that up in here in this cupboard so you can easily get hold of it. All right, so around to the back, we've got your tow bar across the back just here, which is always a nice thing to have on a motorhome. They're not cheap to have done, so always something to look for, I would say, personally. So you've got the Thetford toilet cassette. So to remove the cassette, we literally lift up on this little orange tab just here and then pull the entire thing towards us. You'll then be able to take that all the way out. And then from there, it's just basically a case of emptying it out. When you empty it out from here, you need to make sure that you hold down this little orange button at the back. Once you finish emptying it out, this is where your blue fluid goes into. So you undo this, and basically you'll notice there you've got a measuring cup. So essentially fill up one of those caps, pour it back in just there, give it a little swoosh about, and then push this cassette all the way back, making sure that the orange handle goes down behind its little cover. You've got a freshwater flush, so you haven't got to worry about any separate flush fluids. So as long as you've got a little bit of fresh water in your tank, you'll be able to flush the toilet wherever you are. So onto the off side, the layout of this 590 is something that I really like. So it means that you get this really, really tall locker at the back just here that you can get to from the outside. So you have got the option of having these two down if you want to, so you can have them as like shelves. If you don't want those, just literally push them back up away. They're on magnets like that, and then you can use that as extra space for your clothes and things. You can also use it as a wet storage locker. As you can see, you've got a drain off point and like the ability to use it as a, you know, you can get it really wet in there. It won't affect the vehicle at all. Sorry about that noise, just the door opening at the front. So we've got the full-size Omnistore wind-out awning on the side. And these two vents just here are both to do with the fridge. So if you've got the fridge lit up on gas, you will be able to hear a little bit of a gas whirring noise inside here. That's totally normal. But other than that, to be honest, these vents are just for us to get to them for servicing and things like that. Just inside the door, we've got a couple of light switches just there. And the weight plate, as you can see just down there, 3.5 tons. And that is the one I was trying to look for earlier on. So that is where that is. Nothing else to point out in there, no. And then towards the front just here, this is basically just access to a big storage locker. So you can get access to that from inside as well underneath this near side settee, or offside settee, sorry. But yeah, really nice big storage locker inside there. And that is about it for the outside. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to jump in the cab. And I'll just briefly run you through what we've got in here. So you've got a really, really high spec cab on this particular vehicle. So if I just chuck the ignition on, you can see there, 15,700 miles. So as we turn the ignition on, this Pioneer head unit will come to life. I'll probably start playing music. Yeah. So the head unit on here is really, really modern. So you've got the option of various different things, sat nav. You can change the source that you're using. So you've got iPod, Bluetooth, aux, digital radio, all the sort of goodies that you'd expect nowadays. You have also got the reversing camera. So when you pop it into reverse, the screen comes on up there, like so. And you can see that that's working really nicely. So for the rest of the cab, we've got the electric adjusting mirrors from this little joystick just here. We've got the cruise control down here on the left hand side, and your indicators and lights on the top left. Washers and wipers are on the top right hand side stalk just here. You've got the 6-speed manual gearbox. You've also got the option on here, so Burstner and a lot of the sort of top end brands like this are renowned for doing this kind of thing. So basically, if you're wanting to use the stereo without the engine running and you want to use it via the leisure battery, you can press this button just here and you'll see that the radio comes back on. So that's with the ignition off altogether. And basically what that means is that now the stereo is being powered via the leisure battery. All right, so that's what this switch here means. So if I turn this off, stereo turns off, and that's how you can use it on that. Right, so you've got the air conditioning from this switch just here. You've got all of your sort of heater controls just here. You've got your hazard warning lights from there. You've got a couple of 12-volt sockets. So this is a USB point just here and a 12-volt socket next door to that. And that's about it, really. So you've got the full cab blinds as well. So you've got these cab blinds that meet in the middle here at the front window, and you've got the same on the side windows. They come all the way across and meet over there. So all the way up, all the way back, back in. There you go. Right, so when it comes to the back end of the vehicle, I'm just going to start you here on the control panel. So this is in my opinion, put that cover back on properly. In my opinion, one of the easiest control panels you could ever have. Super simple, but you know, really effective in the way that they work. So essentially what you've got a couple of scales. So you've got battery indicator here, water levels here, and then you've literally got 12 volt on and pump. that's it. So if I want to turn everything off, I press this button just here. That then turns all the power to anything 12 volt off. If I want to turn it back on, the 12 volt switch. If I want to check the engine battery voltage, we'll press the front button just here and then have a look at the top scale. 13 volts in the engine battery, that's very, very good. We are hooked up at the moment as well, so expect this one to be a little bit higher. So this is our leisure battery voltage, up there just below 14. So that's absolutely perfect. So what that means is, I mean, a resting battery voltage without hookup plugged in is about 12 to 12 and a half. A hookup voltage is going to be anywhere between 13 and 14, or maybe even a little bit higher. So that is absolutely perfect. We've then got the fresh and wastewater levels. So if I press the top button just here and we look at the bottom scale, our fresh tank is pretty much empty. We've then got wastewater, which is this bottom switch, also empty. So I know that there's a little bit of fresh water in the tank because I've just drawn a little bit through to the tap, but it's telling us here that the fresh tank is pretty well empty. We've then got this pump switch on the right hand side. So basically, if you turn that on, you'll then be able to use the taps. Now you've got what's called a submersible pump inside this vehicle, which essentially means that the pump itself sits inside the water tank. All right, so it's a little submersible pump that sits in the water. Now the big plus side to a submersible pump is that the other pumps, the inline pumps that don't work inside the tank, have to be at full pressure before they'll turn off. Now that's normally okay, apart from the fact that if for whatever reason you have a leak somewhere or there's some sort of problem somewhere, the pump will never ever turn itself off. And you know, you sometimes get into issues where it will run on and run on and run on and either run your battery out or burn the pump out. Whereas with a submersible pump like this, the only time the pump will ever run is if you've got the pump switch turned on up there and you actually turn on a tap. All right, so each tap inside the vehicle, because it's a submersible pump, each tap has got a tiny little switch inside the head here, which tells the pump when to turn on and off. So it will not do anything until I do this. So if you listen, when I lift it up, I don't know if you can hear that little clicking noise, but the clicking noise is basically the little micro switch telling the pump when to run. So all the time that your taps are off, in the down position like that, the pump will never ever run. So, anyway, yeah, I think that's about it for the control panel, really. That's it really is as simple as that. So the next thing I'm going to show you is going to be that to do with the pump and the boiler. So if you want to use the boiler, it's really simple to use. I'll run you through it on this little system just here in a minute. But if you do want to use it, it's really important to do one thing first. Now, I showed you on the outside earlier on how to get to the boiler drain off point, and as long as that little blue button at the bottom is pushed in, you can then move on to this next step, which is just as easy. Basically, make sure that you've got your pump switch turned on, and then come over here to the tap, turn the tap to the hot side, and just basically make sure that you get water coming through. So if we just do that. So yeah, there's water coming through and it's at good pressure. That's it. That's all you have to do. So the reason that that works and the reason that that tells you the boiler's full up is that basically if the boiler wasn't full up with any water, that water that's coming through the tap just here would be filling up the boiler first before it comes to the tap. So if you get water coming through to the tap on the hot side of the tap there, the boiler is 100% full. And that's it. That's all you have to do. So once you've done that, you can then go ahead and use the boiler however you want to. So I'll run you through that in just a minute. You have also got, if I think I've left the keys up here, yeah. So with this particular model, you do get the electric drop-down bed, which is just up there. You also get these really nice lights on the bottom of the bed there and cupboards that really easily drop down like so, which I think is really clever actually. There you go. So the electric drop down bed, you do have to put a little key in. So if I just get the right key, I think it's that one. Not that one, of course. Okay, so it's this little key here. which one side of it hasn't got anything on it. So if we pop that in and turn it, you'll then be able to use the electric bed. So if we watch that working. Now you do have to be careful where this drops down to, because you've got the cushions just here, which will get in the way of it a little bit, so it will make a bit of a noise. But there you go. So that's the bed there. Drop down. You've got your ladder just here and the table over there. It will take a little bit longer to go back up, obviously. So if we just watch that. When you've got these electric drop-down beds, I always like to show them working properly. I'll just go all the way up until it stops. And there you go. So the idea behind the key, as you can probably imagine, is to stop kids or whoever you want not using it. So without this key in it, this is completely useless. Right, so I think whilst we're on the sort of topic of the boiler anyway, I'll just show you how to use that first. So this is a Truma iNet ready system. So to use this, we turn it on by pressing the front button just here. And I'll just turn all this stuff off quickly just so I can show you it working from scratch. Okay, so when we're on this sort of home screen like this, all it's doing is telling us the time. Obviously that time is wrong, so you can change that if you want to. Press this button just here, and that then brings you through to the main screen. I'm just going to go down so I can see what I'm doing as well. So once we're on this main screen here, we've got a few options. So basically you can scroll through this little scroller here, and it will flash whichever one it's hovering over, it will flash. So the first one just here is our heating. So if I press on that, it's telling us that the heating is off at the moment. I can turn this temperature up all the way through until I get to the temperature that I want. So let's just say 26, for example, now, because it's quite a warm day, so it will need to be quite high to actually come on. So that's now telling us, this little flame symbol here above the heater, that's telling us that the heating is about to come on. The next one over, this one just here, is our hot water. So that's also now saying off. I can choose eco, hot, or boost. So depending on how quickly I want the hot water to come on, I can choose that from there. So now it's telling us here as well, we've got the heating coming on and we've got the hot water coming on, because they're both flashing. Now, the next one over, this one just here, this is our energy selector. So that's going to tell the boiler what energy to use, whether it's gas or electric. Now we're selecting on gas at the moment. We can choose mix 1 or mix 2, which is a mixture of gas and electric, or we can use just electric. So for example, at the moment we're hooked up on the mains, so we can use that function there where it says electric. So whatever this one here above this little energy selector here is telling us here, is telling we're on electric 2, which is about 8 amps of electric. If I change my mind and I actually just wanted to use gas, I could just go back through to gas only, and it will just give us a little gas bottle symbol up here instead. The last one over here on the right is our fan speed. So you've got eco or high, and that's it. That's basically just going to determine how quickly the fan runs to pump the air through to the little circular vents around the vehicle for the heating. So let's just say I don't want the hot water on anymore. I don't want the heating on anymore. Turn that back round to 0. And now, because we've turned the heating and the hot water ones off here, everything up the top has gone off because that boiler is now completely switched off. You can get through to setting the time just here, so I think it's just very roughly for now. Can't actually see what the time is, but let's just say it's 11:40, and it now tells us it's 11:40. So there you go, that's how you use the boiler. It's really simple how to use it. It's one of those things that you'll get used to really quickly. But yeah, hopefully that made sense. Obviously the other thing to point out is that the electric function on there will not work unless you're hooked up on the mains, because that's a mains powered appliance just there. But there you go. Okay, so we've then got the 3-burner hob over here. So you have got an igniter for all 3 of these. Easy as this, just twist whichever one you want to move to light up, and it will light up just like so. And obviously that you know, each one of these correlates to which one it is. Easy as that. The only thing I'll point out as well is that it does give you a little symbol here telling you don't put the lid down whilst the flame's on. That's probably self-explanatory. But the other thing I always like to mention is that it's also really important. So for example, say you've been cooking on this for half an hour or so, and these are all raring, you know, raging hot. Don't put the lid down straight away just as soon as you've turned them off, because that's just as bad as putting it down on the actual naked flame, really, because they're so hot still. I always like to recommend to leave these lids up and just allow these to cool off a little bit at least before you put the lid back down again. All right, so if you've had these on for a little while, just leave the lid up for a bit, let it cool down a little bit, and then put the lid down. All right, so we've then got the oven and grill at the top just here. I mean, really, it's just a grill, to be honest. It's not... it has got the oven at the bottom, as you can probably see. But, as I say, you know, obviously people do cook in these. They are big enough, but, you know, it just depends what you want to use it for, really. But basically, push in and round to the right will allow you to light up. Oh, sorry, I'd take that back. It is just an oven. So, when you're using it as an oven, right, some of these ones are ovens and grills, that's why I got confused there. So push in and round to the left, and it should light up the oven, like so. All right, so yeah, because this is such a small gap just here, they've just used the oven. So that little bit at the back just there reflects the heat up, and it kind of works as a grill anyway, because if you put something in at the top just here, the heat up here is incredible, really. So yeah, this is essentially just your small oven grill type unit. But there you go, that's how you light it up. All the way back to the top, we'll turn that off. Put the grill pan back in. So obviously, I mean, this hasn't been used before, so there you go. Right, so you've then got the massive Dometic 3-way fridge. You've got the freezer compartment at the top. So, as I said, there's a 3-way fridge, so it works 3 different ways. You've got 240 volt, so this is when you're hooked up. You've got gas, and you've got 12 volt. So the 12 volt is for when your engine's running. It will not work if the engine's not running. The gas, obviously, you have to have your gas bottles turned on, and the mains, you have to have a mains hookup plugged in. So the idea is that these fridges will only get cold via electric or 240 volt or gas. Okay, these two here. So the idea behind it is basically, say, for example, if you're going to go away on holiday tomorrow morning, you might want to get the fridge cold via the electric, the 240 volt electric or the gas, and then switch over to 12 volt here when you start the engine up and drive off. All right, so that's the idea behind it. The 12 volt will keep the fridge cold as you drive. It will not get the fridge cold by itself. It's not really powerful enough to do that. So, you know, that's just kind of the way that you have to use these fridges. The A button, this is an automatic energy selecting fridge as well. So you can press this button just here, and it will select which energy it thinks you should be using. So what it's done there is it's automatically chosen 240 volt, and that's because this is the order that the fridge will try and light up. If you leave it on A, there's always an order that they'll run in, and that's how it is there. So you've got electric hookup, gas, and then 12 volt. That's the order that the automatic function will choose. So because we're hooked up on the mains at the moment, it's automatically chosen that one for us. If we didn't have the mains plugged in, it would have automatically chosen gas. And if we didn't have that and the engine was running, it would choose 12 volt. Now there you go. That's how you use the fridge. Easy as that. Right, so you've got a little switch under here, which basically turns on the power to this 12 volt socket. So that's for your TV socket there. Okay, so into the bathroom. The only bit that I normally run through in the bathrooms is the toilet, because the rest of it is normally so self-explanatory. I feel a bit silly talking about it, really, because you've literally got Left and right is your hot and cold on the mixer tap here, and the same goes for here as well. So you've literally got hot and cold, like so. The light switcher in the bathroom is this one just over here. This is the access to that outside locker that I was saying about. You've got a little bit extra storage at the top there as well. Next door to that, you've also got that wasn't meant to happen. You've also got your main sort of wardrobe up here as well. All right, so this is basically going to be your main storage compartment. Because, watch you get hold of that. Because you've got the power supply unit underneath your passenger seat, the normal place for the jack and wheel brace would have been exactly where that is. So that's why they put it here in this rear cupboard. You've also got here the controller for the satellite dome on the roof. So you just basically turn that on and it should lock onto a signal, and you'll then have a satellite signal at the TV unit. Solar controller is also up there as well, just flashing away. We are in the middle of just replacing the solar panel itself because that one that's up there isn't working very well. So we're just going to have that replaced as well. But that's it really for that cupboard. So the toilet itself is so simple, but as I say, if you haven't used one of these before, then you're not really to know. Essentially what you've got is a flap just down here. So what that does is it opens up this flap just here inside the bowl and drains whatever's inside this bowl here into that Thetford cassette that I showed you outside. So to open that up, we push it to the right, and that is now opened up. If I press the flush button, flush fluid pumps around there and into the cassette. To close that back up again, pull it back to the left, and that is now completely closed up. And that is that. So, I think I've covered everything. I don't think I've missed anything out. If there's anything you think I have or anything you want going over again, just let us know. But otherwise, look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks very much.